where we are today as Chicago Bulls fans, I think that the best way to get through these tough times is to talk about player development. And one of those guys on the list is Rob Dillingham, who came over from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And Billy Donovan had some interesting comments regarding his development. We're going to talk about that today. And to end today's episode, we're going to talk about Jeremy Sochan, who was released from the San Antonio Spurs. Should he be on the Chicago Bulls radar? Yeah, I know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Bulls podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, ready to talk Bulls basketball, even when they give you a headache, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, as we're trying to figure out how on God's green earth are we going to try to get through this season without crashing out. It should all be about the player development in my mindset, but hey, the Chicago Bulls took a loss versus the Boston Celtics, and pretty much once we got to the second quarter, the game was pretty much over. But there was some interesting comments that we had amongst ourselves over here on Shy Bulls podcast with myself, Steve-O, and C-Dub, and some of you all that joined in into the live call yesterday. And that conversation included guys like Rob Dillingham. Steve-O had the mindset, and it's fair. He had the mindset that Rob Dillingham would never develop into a playmaking point guard for the Chicago Bulls. And there's others, including myself, that's on the side of, let's see this young player develop. There was a reason in my mind why we have why Rob Dillingham never panned out in Minnesota, but I also think that the situation in Minnesota could have been one that was they didn't have time to wait on him to develop. These guys are in win now mode, especially with the success of the Minnesota Timberwolves in the last few years. So there's a lot of different conversations to throw up in there and really discuss, and it's just good for basketball discussions. And I'm not going to push back or, completely go off on somebody who has a difference of an opinion when it comes to Rob Dillingham, because I can agree there was a reason why he wasn't getting tick over there, and there is a reason why they were anxious to move off of him. But then I also believe there is also a reason why they could not wait on him to develop, because they are in win now mode. Both things can be true. But Billy Donovan is one of those guys that's kind of on the side of who has a belief of wanting to see Rob Dillingham be more successful, but also mentions that there are some things that he's currently doing that he believes is not sustainable. So there is a message from Billy Donovan that was shared by Joel Lorenzi, NBA writer for The Athletic, and he shared Billy Donovan's comments on Rob Dillingham, saying this: he's the one guy that off the dribble, he can really go by people and get into the teeth of the defense. So that's like a real great positive, but the decision-making, the shots that he's taking are not sustainable. And I told him that his job and responsibility is to generate shot for guys when he gets there and understand the shots where he's got angles that he can shoot at a high percentage on, and then shots he can't take. It's not like I'm giving him free reign. We need him downhill, but he also can't be jumping off of 2 feet, getting caught in the air, shooting over guys, trying to throw passes that aren't there. He's got to clean that up, and we got to help him do it. But what I don't want to do is have him not be aggressive where he's like, I'm afraid to attack. He has to attack, but he's got to make better decisions, and I think that will come in time. End quote from Billy Donovan, shared again by Joel Lorenzi. And I think that's 100% true. I honestly agree with everything Billy Donovan said there. And it goes back to the point of this player has to develop into something. And the way that I see that he's going to be able to develop is by receiving minutes. Yes, he can go out there and work on his game during practice. Yes, he can do as many drills as he wants to possibly do. But I don't believe that he's going to, it has to be a process of development for Rob Dillingham. I'm not going to go out there and say that everything has been amazing from him during the 3 games that we've seen him in the Chicago Bulls uniform. But I will say we've seen a couple of nice things that Rob Dillingham can bring to the table. Rob Dillingham can get downhill like Billy Donovan, you know, expressed throughout his comments. But there are moments to where he can go out there and make boneheaded passes too. But that takes time. That's why with the guy being so young, I'm not quite ready to write him off. I'm interested to see his development. I think that the remainder of the games after the All-Star break will be essential for his development, and we'll be able to get a clear idea to see if he's going to continue to take steps forward. Last night versus the Boston Celtics, Rob Dillingham went out there in 30 minutes of play and dropped 16 points, had 1 rebound, had 7 assists, and only had 3 turnovers. To me, that's not so bad. But I do understand the need of, if you're going to be a point guard for us and we're going to utilize your skill set off the bench for us, when you go out there, we need you to make smart basketball plays. And that comes from every single person on the Bulls roster, not just Rob Dillingham. But that's one of the things to where it's like, okay, how can we get the best out of this young player? What goals am I setting up for this young player to develop under me? And I think that's one of the things that we always question about Billy Donovan, whether he can go out there and have guys set up the right way and be in the best position as possible. And I think that's something that we keep it real? We have not seen much of. So I will agree with Billy Donovan in that regard. When it comes to the players, but he also has to look at himself on how he's going to set Rob Dillingham up. Now, when you look at some of the others that have been coming in, getting minutes and stuff like that, Colin Sexton of the world, Anthony Simons of the world, who I believe are not going to be a part of the future for the Chicago Bulls, you have to go out there and say, Rob Dillingham, go hoop. That's it. That's all we need you to do. Go hoop. You know what I mean? And I think that's very, very important. And he's not a finished product in my mind. I'm willing to give him a chance. If there are people that's out on him already, that's cool. I'm not telling people how they should fan or how they should feel about said players. But I've seen young players have a change of scenery and then turn into different type of players. We've seen that with some of the guys that were previously in Chicago Bulls uniform, like Larry Marketing. Obviously, different position, different type of game, but we knew that he had some game over here in Chicago, but we also knew that once he got to his destination where he is now, that's where we seen him at his peak. You know what I'm saying? So maybe a change of scenery for Rob Dillingham is one that we'll be able to see come to fruition, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. At this particular moment, I'm not expecting the Chicago Bulls to win many games, so the focus for me will be on player development. Who's going to be here for the foreseeable future, and who's going to go out there and give these guys the best opportunity to turn this damn thing around, because I want to be not only competitive, but I want to see us into some playoff situations where we actually have a chance to win basketball games. And right now, that is still up in the air. So we'll definitely have to try to figure all this stuff out. We'll definitely keep monitoring all this. And I know we've been talking a lot about Rob Dillingham over the last few days, but there is more players that will be, you know what I'm saying, under the microscope from the Chicago Bulls, because, hey, right now, there is a sense of some of these players won't even be here. They're just helping out the tank job. And if they're tanking, bro, that's just what it is. And unfortunately, that's not the way that I wanted to go. But what else do you want me to do? What else do you want me to do? We already came to the conclusion that it's okay to take 3 steps back to move 2 steps forward. And I think this is a part of the process. We got tired of being in the play-in game. I'm tired of being in the play-in game. It goes against everything that I believe in, but these guys are clearly tanking. And honestly, I have no feeling regarding the tank. Real talk. It is what it is at this particular moment, because the way that we were going with injuries and all these different things that was going on, the Chicago Bulls are primed for another play-in spot, and I'm tired of that. So at this particular moment in time, as we continue to evaluate these players, hey, I don't expect too many wins to come for the Chicago Bulls anytime soon. That's just my personal opinion, and it's just going to be one of those things to where you have to just carry yourself through and try to figure it all out. That's just how I'm looking at it, folks. That's how I'm looking at it, y'all. That's just how I'm looking at it. But hey, let me know your thoughts and everything down below regarding Rob Dillingham. Are you somebody that's in favor of him Do you believe that you need a little bit more time? Because he's only played 3 games for the Chicago Bulls. I'm willing to give him more time. If you're not willing to give him more time, let me know down below. Just let me know. But hey, let's talk about Jeremy Sochan. So Jeremy Sochan was with the San Antonio Spurs. They were trying to find a trade partner at the deadline for him. Nobody really budged on that. So ultimately, Jeremy Sochan and his representatives in the San Antonio Spurs agreed that he will be released. Right now, he's going through the waiver wire. Somebody could bite on that, or he can go out there and just seek opportunities once he clears waivers and decide on what team he wants to go out there and receive his next opportunity at. Now, the biggest question is, should the Chicago Bulls have him on their radar? Now, here's the challenge. Before you answer the question, the Chicago Bulls already have a full roster. So if they do take, a chance on Jeremy Sochan, you have to go out there and release somebody. Who will you release? This is going to be the first question. Who are you going to release? A lot of players that's on the team right now, they just picked up via trades. So who are you going to release? Is the consensus to come to the table and say that, hey, we're going to go out there and release Colin Sexton? Is that the consensus? Or do you go out there and say, hey, we're going to release somebody else? And if that is somebody else, who is the somebody else? So that's what the thing is for the Chicago Bulls. But Jeremy Sochan is only 22 years old, only has a couple years of experience. If you think about it, he fits the Bulls' philosophy of young players with experience. He is a young player with experience from the San Antonio Spurs franchise. And how do you all view him as a basketball player? I say he's okay. Maybe not necessarily a game changer or something like that, but I believe he could be a contributor to a winning team. Maybe not in the highest type of way, but I believe he has some type of skills that you can see if he get a change of scenery, we will be good for a said player. Am I high on the decision? No. But do I think the Chicago Bulls could potentially take a flyer on him just to see if they can move forward with him? Possibly. The Chicago Bulls got all these former lottery picks on the team right now. Right now. They got a lot of people with experience that they brought into the building. Colin Sexton has been in the league for a while now. He's kind of out of the timeline for it. I'm not calling for him to be released, but if you do go out there and explore a Jeremy Sochan pickup, that could be one of the guys that can potentially be waived. However, the way that the Chicago Bulls are doing business, it'll look a little iffy. Not even going to hold you, because you could have just traded for him and then let him go after the deadline was concluded. But you didn't. So how does it look now if you go and say, all right, man, we're going to go ahead and get you up out of here. Appreciate the 4 games that you gave us. We're going to pick up Jeremy Sochan. So it's just one of those things. Doesn't have the best shot, not the best 3-point shooter, not the best in the painted area, can drive and get to the basket, is a bigger player, 6'8", you know what I mean, with some weight on him, and only average about 11 points the last few years. This year's down because he didn't receive much playing time in San Antonio. So like I said, not very, very high on it, but it's definitely interesting for a conversation. Now, if the Bulls are wanting to look at players that you could potentially keep long-term, why wouldn't he be on the radar, though? That's my only question. Again, not very, very high on the player, you know what I mean? But if he fits the philosophy, can bring you, I wouldn't say crazy size, but another wing in the building versus all these guards that you have, is something that may be on the table. I'm just saying. But I know there's going to be some people that's like, nah, Bobby, you tripping. And that's fine too. Because if you're not a big fan of him, I'm not mad at it, because he does not shoot the 3-point ball well, which every player doesn't have to be great, but he's only shooting 30%. And then in the painted area, he okay. Could be a lob threat. Not the best defender. So that's why I'm not so high on it. But I wouldn't be mad if the Chicago Bulls say, hey, we got an influx of guards. The emphasis should be placed on Rob Dillingham and Jaden Ivey, in my personal opinion. And then you try to find some spots for some other guys. Now, if you're cool with just going through with the rest of the season and say, hey, Noah Essengay, when he comes back, he's going to receive minutes, we're good. I'm good with that selection too. I'm just saying it's open for discussion. I'm not saying it's an absolute thing, but it should be open for discussion. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Make sure you let me know your thoughts and everything down below. Before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, man. We appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all always see red, and y'all already know we're going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
Cognac. Gang.